everyone. Welcome everybody to our DIFC session on the fintech and innovation opportunities in the MEASA region. A little bit about our fantastic speaker's background. Ali Hassan is a senior representative of the Dubai International Financial Center DIFC, authority in Europe and North America, and director of the business development for the center. Ali supports the COA in developing and promoting the insurance, banks, capital markets, and wealth management sectors in line with the center's business strategies. Astyanax Kanakakis is CEO and co-founder of Norbloc. He spent more than 14 years in finance and consulting, most recently as an associate partner in McKinsey & Company, specializing in banking and corporate finance. He was previously chief commercial officer in PNC Group, the Bitcoin blockchain pioneer, and chairman of the board in XBT provider. Mouilleron is the founder and CEO of Bankable, a global architect of white label and API-based payment solutions. He previously co-founded Valtech, an IT project-based consultancy, and spearheaded its transformation into a Euronext listed multinational with 12 offices in 8 countries and 1,500 staff. On the moderator side, we have our co-host and my colleague, Alex Panican, head of partnerships and ecosystem development at LHoFT. Prior to joining LHoFT, Alex was a marketing and strategy teaching associate at the University of Quebec in Montreal and a serial entrepreneur creating companies in the space of e-commerce and the like. At LHoFT, he's been traveling the world, connecting fintech entrepreneurs with the local ecosystem, and has been a master of ceremony interviewing thought leaders from all walks of life. Gentlemen, Alex, the screens are yours.
Thank you, Anthony. Very kind introduction. Very dynamic, as always. I think we should move our webinars in the morning, around 7 a.m. So you wake up us every day. So thank you, Anthony, for the introduction. Hello, everybody. Thank you to be with us for this quite unique webinar about opportunities in Dubai and the region. So as most of you know, I don't want to be too boring for the Luxembourg ecosystem was already on the line, but a quick introduction about the LHoFT. So the Luxembourg House of Financial Technologies is a foundation, public-private, backed by the Ministry of Finance and 20+ private partners in Luxembourg. One of our main missions is to drive innovation in the financial industry in Luxembourg and beyond in Europe. And we do that in many ways, by working on specific projects with our partners, but also by connecting fintechs from all over the world with the local ecosystem, and be it the banks, the insurance, or the asset managers. But for the last 3 years, the fintech ecosystem in Luxembourg really grew. So we have today more than 220 fintechs, and they are getting a kind of maturity where they are looking for new horizons. So our job is not just to attract fintechs. Since last year, we are also looking how they can attack new markets and spread the technology elsewhere. So today we are very lucky because we have the Dubai International Financial Center with us, which is, I would say, a twin of Luxembourg. We almost have the same kind of ecosystem. And we thought it would be very interesting for listeners and for fintechs and entrepreneurs to learn more about how to do business over there. So we already have at least 5 fintechs from Luxembourg who have done business over there. They are very happy. If some of them even raise money from there. And thanks to our partners, the Hive, and I salute Raja if she's on the call. Thank you very much, Raja, for your help in Dubai. So without further ado, Ali, please, the mic is yours. Please introduce to us this amazing ecosystem you guys have built over there.
Thank you very much, Alex, for that very kind introduction. I'm delighted to be here. Let me just share my screen. And so, yeah, thank you very much, Alex, for that very kind introduction. Dubai and DIFC very much values collaboration with other financial centers, and Dubai and the UAE's links with Luxembourg are extensive and well established. So we feel we're amongst friends here today, and we're looking to add value to your offering as much as anything else. So let me set up this conversation. Obviously, I've got some great speakers following me, so I just want to set up the conversation by looking at some commentary and data on 3 key elements, if you like. So, one is that the market opportunity. 2 is, looking at Dubai as a landing point for digital businesses. And 3 is around the market entry options and how you can manage your risk in doing that. So just turning firstly to the opportunity. Listen, I mean, I think that there are 4 macro factors that support the rationale for looking at this region. One is you've got the GCC economies heavily investing in diversifying their economies away from hydrocarbons. That has been happening significantly and will continue. We also have the advancing economies in the region, most notably India, 1.3 billion people and growing, post-COVID, around 7% for next year, the forecast. The demographics are very supportive, right? So you've got 40% of the population is under 25. It's very tech savvy. It adopted digital very early on, and that's in play. And then the GCC and Dubai in particular has really invested in both its soft and hard infrastructure to provide a really supportive business environment. Thank you. And now just turning to digital specifically, well, listen, I mean, I think COVID has obviously impacted us all, and from a digital perspective, it's accelerating trends globally, and this is no different when you look at MEASA. And the UAE, you've seen the adoption, as I mentioned, in terms of the consumers very early on, sort of mid-2000s. But what we're seeing now through growth of e-commerce is that the response from B2B and B2C segments. So people are looking at cost efficiencies, of course, but also market reach, better user experiences, and greater profitability, of course. The government in the UAE and Dubai very supportive and acknowledge and are prioritizing the digital economy. They see that is the way to remain relevant, going forward over the next decades. And just an example of that, Dubai earlier this year, in fact, announced the creation of Dubai Future District, which DIFC is part of. And that's really an ecosystem to drive digital innovation across a range of economic sectors, right? So hospitality, aviation, logistics, education, as well as, of course, financial services. Just a couple of proof points then on that digital adoption point that I make. Extremely high penetration, mobile penetration in the GCC, and significant growth in mobile acquisition in Africa and South Asia. And then on the right-hand side, you've got the analysis by Bain and Google, albeit in 2017, but I think the growth rates have certainly been there, where you have e-commerce growing at around 28% annually. And then just turning to Dubai and just giving you a snapshot of some of the reasons why this city stands out as a landing point for the region. I mean, it sits at the center of global trade flows from east to west, west to east. You have a market access of 2.2 billion people within a 5-hour flight. You have a very business-friendly environment, as I mentioned. So actually, 70% of Fortune 500 companies that have a presence in the region, their headquarters sits in Dubai. And Dubai has also worked very hard in terms of lifestyle, right? So this is not a hardship posting for people. This is not a place where they think, oh, crikey, I've got to spend time in. You do have the education, the healthcare, the leisure facilities, in the city. Probably not as many Michelin-starred restaurants as Luxembourg, but certainly a few there as well. And just next. Well, can we just go back one? Sorry. Yeah. So in terms of just turning to the fintech scene in the GCC, now we may argue about the numbers, but I think the broad messages are there. 400 plus in the region, but Dubai has a lion's share in terms of a specific location, and within that 150 plus sit in the DIFC. And bear in mind, we started our Fintech Hive platform, as Alex mentioned, in 2017. So that's been pretty significant growth over the last 3 years. And clearly, you can see that DIFC is the premier cluster in the region for fintech. Thank you. Next. And then just looking at some of the use cases, and obviously Eric and Asti will talk about their perspectives. But in terms of the use cases in financial services, it's been, the region has been predominantly, traditionally, a cash-driven, environment, right? So, but that is changing massively, quickly. People are looking at efficiencies, but also more effective risk management, better, user experiences as well. So, coupled with that, it's a significant area for remittances. 25% of world flow originates from the region. And in fact, our regulator, the DFSA, has just put in place a very comprehensive payments regulatory framework that allows for open banking activities, that allows for stored value, that allows for money transmission. So that's an example of how we're adopting international standards. Digital KYC, again, it's higher cost primarily in the region for onboarding. That generates an opportunity and also an ability to enhance user experience. And then just on the banking side, banking and wealth management, obviously you have a wide spectrum of wealth within the region, and you have a wide spectrum of access to financial services in the region. And I think that generates actually opportunities at both ends of that scale. Thank you. And as Alex mentioned, Fintech Hive is our custom-built ecosystem, our focal point for digital businesses. It's an integral part of the DIFC, so it sits within the DIFC, and it really provides ready access to clients, potential clients, and sources of capital. And we have a number of flexible market entry options that lower risk, when you're setting up a business, and a full suite of programs as well that can, support you depending on whatever stage you're at, in terms of a more structured engagement with the market and in terms of, your development needs.
They've been a great help, Ali. So thank you. They've been a great help.
Pleasure, Alex. Pleasure. And then, just a recent data point, even with the the challenging last quarter we've all experienced, actually the DFSA has had its largest cohort come in for its innovation testing license for this summer 2020. And I just want to touch on synergies, right? I think this is really important because it's a familiar environment. DIFC is a very familiar environment, and it means that you can, you're doing business in line with international norms. So you can bring existing business models and you can roll them out, within an environment that gives you, actually within the DIFC, you get a sort of ready-made cluster of potential partners and clients from the region, but also internationally. And those synergies, again, are reflected in the legal and regulatory framework, right? So your control frameworks that you have operating, say, in Europe, can be rolled out with certainty and comfort in the centre and the region. I think I'll leave it there. I'm delighted to be followed by Eric and Asti, and I'm sure that they'll share their considerable expertise and insights.
Thank you so much, Ali. So yes, I guess the next in line is Astyanax, CEO and co-founder of Norbloc. So the idea of Astyanax is to get your experience in the region, why you're there, and how it is to set up the business over there. please. And thank you for being with us, because people, so they know, you've been stuck in an airport and you still managed to find some time and speak with us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully it's not going to be like Tom Hanks and I'm going to be stuck here for a year. I'm hoping to leave this afternoon. But yes, it's great to be here. Why? Why did we choose the Middle East to begin with, and why DIFC? So Norbloc is a company that develops regulatory platforms that use distributed ledger technology, also known as blockchain technology. When we started the company in 2016, it was clear that one of the regions and one of the countries that was very vocal about focusing on testing the technology, blockchain technology, on how it can be applied was UAE, and very much Dubai. So for us, it was a no-brainer to actually go and test the waters in a market that clearly has, also as Ali mentioned, very high KYC needs, but also very strong focus from the top down in terms of technological innovation. So that's why the first decision was, yes, we have to go to the UAE, we have to go to Dubai. How we do this? We chose DIFC because DIFC, actually we're in the first cohort of the DIFC Fintech Hive. And that was a great decision because it was a great, let's say, introduction to the entire financial services sector of the region. It was a great place to build the company, to grow the company. And looking back, it was actually a very wise decision. The majority of our business actually now across geographies comes from the UAE and from introductions that were first done through DIFC and Fintech Hive. So the thinking again, blockchain technology, the focus on the top level, on the country level, but then how we do this, and DIFC for us was a clear choice. It's a leading financial free zone, and it offers a lot of support to startups like Norbloc.
I think I'm going to ask the same question to you and Eric. Did you, I mean, what were the main challenge, if you can speak of maybe one challenge that you faced and how you overcome it moving over there, or it was something different of doing business over there than doing business in Europe or in the US? Astyanax, the question is for you.
I'm sorry. So the difference actually is that things happen faster. So the challenge around blockchain technology is it's not technological, it's actually business. Because blockchain technology is a network, essentially, a network, database network. And that means you have to get people to work together. In Europe, getting people to work together means very much consensus that can be taking a lot of time, let's say, to arrive to a meaningful conclusion. In Dubai and UAE, what we saw is that there was a top-down directive that, yes, we're doing this, and we have to make this work, and that accelerated things tremendously for us. So that was the difference that we see between what happens in Europe, where we also work a lot, especially in Northern Europe, and the Middle East, and Dubai in particular.
Perfect. Did you face any challenge to do business over there?
The challenge is actually the same as the opportunity. It's a region that now is growing. It's not in the state where Europe is or the US is. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but clearly it's not as mature as Europe and the US. So the level of sophistication that you can expect from clients, counterparties, investors is not the same. But the opportunities are much bigger. So basically, it's as long as you understand both these options of the same, let's say, status, then it's absolutely fine. So not as sophisticated as Europe and the US, but a lot of opportunity that someone can actually go and capitalize on.
Perfect. I will come back with a few questions for you, Astyanax, if you don't mind. So if you want to, we can move on to Eric, our next speaker. So Eric, thank you so much for being with us. Eric is the founder and the chief executive officer of Bankable, another great fintech we have in Europe. So Eric, please, what's your feedback and what was your experience over there?
So I think we're in Dubai for multiple reasons. Number one, it's a pro-business jurisdiction. So we tend to work in jurisdictions that are pro-business. So all servers are in Luxembourg. So on that sense, the pro-business side is very important for us. So we're headquartered in the UK. We chose, in fact, Dubai because first we have a very big client in Dubai that we serve globally. And secondly, I think it's it's a region that is a sort of a magnet for the, as Ali said, I mean, it's definitely a magnet for Africa, and it's a place where you can find a lot of headquarters. So Bankable has operation everywhere where it's pro-business, where there are headquarters, and where we can support basically our clients. So I think currently we're in London, Dubai, Singapore, and New York. So it's all the same profile. It's pro-business, and I think the idea is that we will partner with. We have global clients who would like to have one contract and not 10 contracts. So that's what we are organized to serve, and there's a lot of interesting things that are happening in Dubai, and there's a very strong government as well, like in Luxembourg, with a vision. Yeah. So vision for fintech is important because you can't build a strong fintech ecosystem without government support. It does not exist. So you look at Singapore, look at everywhere. The UK is the best example. It was started it was a government initiative that was started almost 10 years ago. So that's why we are there. I think we are. One challenge we have in the region is I would say you can't build fintech without banks, and I think banks they're quite lukewarm or cold, or they're not necessarily open to support fintech. So I think there's more and more banks that are enablers, but it's clearly it's the weakest link today in the region as it is in other regions. Actually, it's the same. A bit less in Asia, but even in Europe, it's not always easy. In the US, it's very simple. They invented this model, the bank sponsorship model. In Europe, there's a few interesting followers, but in Dubai, it's extremely conservative. So I think what we do with banks is that we reinforce their compliance. So I think we're not a threat, and I think we are working in Dubai to help federate fintech and help make sure that they can go to market faster. So it's a journey. So, but as I always say, patience is important everywhere, including Dubai. Yes? So there's no magic stick where it's always very quick. So I think we need, but all the conditions for us to blossom are already present in Dubai. So we hope to get, and we have a global partnership with MEASA. So we work with MEASA in Dubai, and that's their headquarters for 80 countries in Dubai. So they manage from Russia to South Africa. So we're quite busy supporting them.
Great. And when you said you are busy, what are your main clients, if I may ask, beyond MEASA in Dubai, Eric?
So one is a very big airline.
Okay, we can imagine.
We support them for now 3 or 4 years. We are present in 160 airports where they are present. And in case of incident, we provide a real-time emergency disbursement solution for crew and passengers. So I think we're quite proud of that. So I think it was a success that encouraged us to increase our presence in Dubai.
Interesting. Did you face any challenge? You say that it's quite conservative industry, but just as Astyanax, there could be an opportunity because you're going to bring some new technology and some new way of doing things, some innovation. About setting up, I'm going to be very honest, guys. So most of the fintechs are coming to Luxembourg. They're a bit surprised because the main challenge to set up a business in Luxembourg is opening a bank account. So what's the main challenge to set up a business over there, and what will be the time frame? So our companies will also understand what they should prepare in front. So I see Hassan is laughing, so maybe you want to take this.
Of course. I'm laughing because the irony in what we do in Norbloc is that we essentially develop KYC platforms. KYC is the process that you do when you want to open a bank account with the bank. If there is one challenge that is almost insurmountable in UAE is opening a bank account once you register a company. So this is actually one of the biggest problems in being able to set up the company operationally and start running. I have to say that DIFC and other free zones have done a lot in terms of registering the company quickly and digitally and remotely, but banks are now catching up to this. When we first went to Dubai, it was almost impossible. So I would say that's the biggest challenge that we faced.
What's the biggest challenge for you, Eric?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's and it's a global phenomenon. It's always difficult to engage with banks. So I think for us, we work with a few global banks. So we've used the same network we have in the UK, in Dubai. But I think we try to be local. But this is always a pain. I think it's not completely unreasonable, because I think they need to manage their risk. But of course, there's a lot of fluidity with the DIFC, but when comes the bank account, poof, it stops. So then we're back into a quarter. Yeah, we're back, if not more, actually, with paper. So you're back to the digital vision becomes a paper vision.
Another question is regarding with the challenges, and I would like some honesty from you, because again, the financial industry in Luxembourg is working with fintechs from all over the world. So just the LHoFT, we have more than 150 members, and they are based in Tokyo, South Africa, San Francisco. Some of them are even based all over Africa, and they're still managing to work with the industry here. But we saw that it's better to have a presence because you are closer to your clients. What's your feedback, guys? Do you have employees based in Dubai?
So in our case in Norbloc, yes, we do. And we took that decision, a very conscious decision. I would say there's a cultural element that does value a lot, a physical interaction. So you go and you have a meeting with someone, you don't have teleconferences, video conference, etc. One of the great things around COVID, I mean, there's awful things around it, but also there's some good things, is that people are getting used to video conferences, teleconferences. So we foresee that this is going to be less and less of an issue going forward. And actually that goes very much into one of the questions I saw that was like one of the biggest opportunities now in the post-COVID world. I mean, COVID actually says to everyone, to humanity, you have to learn to work remotely. Remotely means digitally, and this relates not only to working with banks, but how you work within a company, how you work with your clients, etc. So I think that actually will help us. But before that, it was a challenge that we needed to travel quite a lot in the region and to have personnel in the region.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to give the mic afterwards. We have plenty of questions. We're going to give the mic to the people. So I guess Mathieu, you've got your answer already from Astyanax. Eric, can you add something on that? Do you have presence on the ground?
We have a very small presence. We have a footprint right now. So a lot of things are done still in London. So all implementation is centralized. But I think our intention is to transform this footprint into a regional hub. And that's the same in Singapore, and it's the same everywhere where we are actually. So currently, we've done the hard work. All the admin or the bank account. We've got clients, but now we want to ramp up and change speed. So we've made all these effort to create a platform that with more people that will implement locally. And I think you're right, Astyanax. It's a lot about. Be ready to have messages on WhatsApp in the region. WhatsApp in Europe, it's about private communication. Over there, it's what's your WhatsApp? So at the beginning, I said, well, I don't want to give you my WhatsApp. It's for kids. But that won't work this way there. It's all, they call you on weekends. They call you whenever they want. It's 24/7 and it's WhatsApp. So it's quite dynamic, but there's things you need to know. You need to adapt.
I agree with you. We do have some entrepreneurs from there, and you are right. I mean, they write during the night on WhatsApp. You always have to be present for them. Ali, maybe you also want to add something. What would be your advice to a company, to a fintech wanting to do business over there?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I mean, let me pick up that point on banks and bank accounts. Yeah, absolutely. It is part of a journey that we're taking the region through, and DIFC is very much the agent for change and trying to support firms in resolving those types of matters. And in fact, recently we've been very proactively engaging banks around payments and operating payment accounts. And in general, opening up bank accounts. I mean, obviously there is a commercial element which banks obviously make their own decisions and calls on in terms of the size and expected volume of business. But I think that in terms of the general way of approaching this, I say there is I agree the way we're working now and the adoption of digital will continue, but there's going to be a pivot. So it's going to be about how do you best engage your clients, not how is it optimum to be co-located with my colleagues, my fellow employees, but should I be actually co-located with my clients so that that there is that greater engagement. So I would say, look, listen, if the region interests you, obviously the first step is to build out your knowledge, and you can engage us, the DIFC, digitally at the moment, hopefully physically at some point, and we will steer you as much as we can in terms of the options available, so that hand in hand with the potential and the rollout of your business, you can then scale up your presence and activities in the region as appropriate.
Thank you so much for your feedback, Ali. Let's give the mic to some of the people on the forum. We have so many questions. It's a shame because I already had a lot of questions, but let's give them the mic first. So maybe we can give the mic to Nayam. It's a question for you, Ali, and also for Eric and Astyanax. Nayam, are you with us?
Yes, hi.
Please,
hi,
Nayam. Thank you so much. So what's your question?
So thanks for the presentation.
Nadia, just 1 second, please. I'm going to take first the question of Nayam, if you don't mind, because it's a question that it's related to one of my questions, in fact, because the Dubai Sovereign Wealth Fund is one of the biggest in the world, the biggest in the region, more than 7 billion under management. So you guys have a lot of money there in Dubai. And so Nayam, please ask your question.
Thanks, Alex. I heard about the incentives which were introduced during post-COVID time about setting up your business at DIFC. I read about it that the deadlines was 30th June in order to kind of go ahead and fill up the licensing agreement. So, I did complete the licensing procedure, but I'm not sure, because now we have surpassed the deadline. So would the incentives still be applicable, or what are the current incentives that would be applicable now?
So yes, it's a question, Ali. I mean, we all face every time I speak with a fintech outside. They say, "How much money are we going to receive to move to any part of the?"
I mean, listen, Nayam, I'm happy to engage on your specific circumstances, post the webinar. But suffice to say that obviously Dubai, UAE, look to support businesses as other governments have done during these challenging times. So we had a specific incentive in place until the 30th of June, but we are continually looking at how we can support businesses, and you do have a very favorable environment in the DIFC in terms of setup, in terms of taxation. And we're increasing our flexibility in terms of how you may want to engage the market to lower your risk in terms of market entry. So happy to take that offline.
But beyond the COVID, I mean, you spoke about few incentives, and maybe we can ask Eric, Astyanax, did you guys benefit from any kind of incentive? It's purely business. Let's start with Astyanax.
Yes, actually, for us, we did not take advantage of actual incentives that were advertised or announced in the last few months in Dubai. We focused much more in Sweden because we're headquartered in Sweden. So basically there is where we focus around incentives that we came out of the COVID situation.
Okay, Eric, did you benefit from any incentives of doing business over there?
No, we prefer to spend time with clients.
That's what I also say to entrepreneurs. The best investors are the clients.
Yes, there's less dilution with clients.
Perfect.
Perfect. We're not after grants, actually. So that we've, that's not what we're after. We're more after help to get the right setup, basically. So it's not about getting money because we're there. It's about getting the right. I mean, when I met Ali the first time, I met his boss, the boss of the DIFC, the next day. So that means you're dealing with people they understand and they consider you as important. So that's what we're after. Consideration is more important than grants.
I totally agree with you. Thank you so much for your feedback. So I'm sorry, Nadja, we are coming back to you. So please ask your question.
Okay, so thanks for the presentation. So we heard from Astyanax that the market is not as mature as in EU or in US, but still I have the impression that there is some specificities over there, and then we cannot copy paste our business model or our way of thinking and put it there, say. And I want to know from the panelists to what we have to pay attention and how to overcome those differences.
Yes, so I guess the question is more on the cultural side of doing business over there. So Astyanax, if you can start maybe.
Yes, so actually I will not stand so much on the cultural side, I will stand so much on the starting point. So what's the starting point of the UAE ecosystem and UAE financial service ecosystem versus the one in Europe and the one in the US? The starting point of the UAE financial ecosystem is actually lower than what it is in Europe and the US. That means that there's a lot more opportunity because there's a lot of white space around anything from customer servicing, from regulatory aspects, onboarding, products, etc. But also the opportunity to leapfrog. So not to go gradually from one technology to version 1.1, 1.2, etc., but to go to version 1, from version 1 to version 10 in what is applied. So I would say these are the main differences between the US and European markets to UAE that mean that we cannot actually say that we can take a model that worked in the US or Europe and basically expect it to work in UAE. It has very much to do with the starting point. I think the starting point is both a challenge, but very, very much an opportunity. And I think that's clear to all the participants of the financial ecosystem in the region.
Thank you. Eric, you want to jump in?
No, I agree with, no, I have nothing to add additional on that. Yeah.
Okay.
So of course we adapt to each culture. I think that's otherwise I'll stay in my village. So yes, it's very important to engage. I think I can only talk about the pre-COVID world when Dubai is a very pleasant place. So you can eat outside. You meet hundreds of nationalities. So it is in fact the migrants that make the culture there, because it's dominated by migrants like us. It's all these nationalities. It's a bit what you see in some very large city like New York or London. It's a melting pot, basically.
Thank you. Let's go to our next question from Sulaiman. Are you with us, Sulaiman?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Please ask your question.
Yeah, my question is to Astyanax from Norbloc. So we are just a startup company, and part of what we do and our business model requires KYC. So is there a kind of concession or maybe solutions from Norbloc to accommodate startup companies? Thank you.
Astyanax, you are on mute. You are still on mute, Astyanax.
Yes, it's from the excitement I was on mute. But basically, Suleiman, if you want, I think there is my email address. I think you can email us and we can talk about this. But clearly, there's a lot of initiatives that as Norbloc we support in the region in terms of making KYC much easier for companies and individuals. And we're working actually with DIFC as well to make Master Bank to create open a bank account easier, the KYC process much more seamless. But feel free to email me and I can basically get in touch with our team in Dubai and we can talk to them directly.
Perfect. You already found a client, so it's good for you, Astyanax. Our next question is from Prambu. I hope I pronouncing it right. Prambu, are you with us?
Yeah. Hi.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, this is Prabhu Srinivasan. My question to the panel is more towards the evolution of the regulatory framework in UAE, particularly when it comes to fintechs and challenger banks. When you're handling sensitive financial data, there is a lot of regulations about data residency, data processing, etc. And given that the majority of the fintechs and challenger banks are centrally developed, centrally hosted, probably in cloud, not necessarily in the region. So how is the regulatory framework evolving to support this? What is the current state? Should we kind of have the data resident in the region, or data residency can be outside? What is the current state?
Shall I take that first?
Yeah, go ahead, Ali, please.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the question. I mean, it is very important, aspect of the DIFC, the legal and regulatory framework. So the aspiration has always been to be in line with international standards, and we look to the European Union specifically as a standard setting region, if you like. So. We have a couple of things. We have recently enacted probably the most comprehensive IP law in the region, in line with international standards. And we also have updated our data protection law to be in line with GDPR. So whilst the firms that are in the center, the 700 regulated firms drawn from Europe, Asia, North America, are operating, out of the DIFC as they would anywhere else. You have the certainty and comfort that actually the jurisdiction itself is protecting data and your intellectual property in terms of your own, products and services. So yeah, it is important. You do have flexibility around how you set up. So. You do have firms that, for example, engage clients in the region from the DIFC, but then book the business in another jurisdiction, whether that's Singapore, Luxembourg, Paris or London. So there are a variety around business model. There is flexibility, but around the legal framework, you do have those safeguards.
May I offer a practical?
Yeah, go ahead, Astyanax.
So basically, to the question, this is something we face all the time because we work now with it's 8 institutions, 6 of them banks, major banks in the UAE, and that has come up a lot actually. So, do you use cloud, and do you have data residency requirements? My advice would be that follow the data residency requirements, and these are not likely to change in the near future, which means that there's only a defined and limited set of providers you can use for your prime operations and your disaster site and recovery site operations. And they have to be offering data centers in the UAE. And I would not, even though you may think that why don't we use AWS in Bahrain or other options because it may be cheaper or otherwise, I would actually try to follow the law and go with the providers that are resident in the UAE. There is a selection. There's a number of utility companies that have started their cloud services, and there is actually one major international player as well resident in the UAE, so there are options.
Eric, you might also jump in. What would be your advice? You are on mute. Yeah.
Follow data residency because that's the starting point. And I think in our case, I think I would love to be, in all countries with Google, Amazon, or Azure. Unfortunately, this is not possible. So I think currently we run and operate a private cloud out of Luxembourg. But Luxembourg for us is interesting because there's a digital embassy concept that we want to push to the region. So we're the first one to talk about that. So there's hope, but it's a long shot. So I think on that side, it's a showstopper. You either comply, it's like compliance. You get the data the right way or don't go there. So and I think I would always get ready for the toughest regulation or toughest environment, and then you have good surprises. But it is an issue for some companies because in some cases you can't replicate the data. So that could be a showstopper for certain certain fintech. So I think you need to be able to be local, but if you're a fintech, you want the data to be as well on your own platform. Otherwise, you have a second instance of your platform. So. But I think there's progress from Amazon, Google. I think there's a lot of gaps still. So it's not definitely something plug and play globally, but hopefully we'll get there because Just Google alone, they're investing $30 billion in the next 5 years for their cloud infrastructure. I don't know any company who can afford such budgets. So one day it will be there, but for banking, at least for banks, there's very little appetite. We have a no cloud policy until recently with all of the banks we support. So we are contesting that because that's the right thing to do. But you know, it's about do whatever we can do. So that is a strict it's a strict rule that it's like the bank account. It's things that are unescapable. You know, you need to follow the rules.
But I think we'll see some evolution because the COVID has also changed maybe some, not just the business model, but also some of the mindset the banks might have. And they cannot hide behind the excuses that now people cannot work remotely, we cannot go on the cloud, because they all had to do it for the last few months. So I think we're going to see some improvements over there. We see it in Luxembourg at least, and I guess it's going to be in other regions too. I also have a few more questions, but maybe one question from Imam Asali. Imam, are you with us? Hello, Imam?
Hello.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Hear you. Go ahead, please.
All right, my question is simple. Now I would like to have all views from all our speakers. As a finance graduate, I graduated this year, unfortunately in these hard times, but I have a huge interest for fintech industry. What do you think that the best I should do to engage more with this industry?
Okay, let's start with Astyanax.
No, so I'm laughing because I sympathize completely. Because the first time I finished my computing degrees at the time, it was just when the internet bubble bursted. And when I did my MBA, I graduated when Lehman Brothers collapsed. Actually, I was working at Lehman Brothers. So I fully sympathize. I would say just be proactive, email people, talk to people, and just believe me that we want to hear from graduates. We want to hear from people like you. It doesn't matter if right now we're hiring or we're hiring in 2-3 months. Reach out, make connections with people, and this will pay off. So just be very proactive. And just, you know, it doesn't, what I would actually highly recommend, don't reach out and say like, no, I'm looking for a job. No, just basically say, I'm interested in finance, I'm interested in fintech. I would very much love to have a coffee with you. And this is something that I've done, and I've benefited from people taking the time, and I'm more than happy to give back and give my time to people that reach out and they want to do the same thing. So that would be my advice to you.
Astyanax, I guess you are an inspiration for a future generation because you faced the worst crisis for the last years, and you still managed to build a great company. So I guess, Imam, it's inspiring for you. It is for me at least. So Eric, what's your...
Yes, I think we're, of course, we're always open. So on our side, I think it's better to, you know, come with a solution. Maybe studied a lot, look at in details what the company is doing. You know, the best interview you do is when you've got someone in front of you don't know that knows your company almost better than you. So I think it's research is important, and then check not only what the company does, but how they do it. You know, because company culture is quite important. So I think so. It's I would recommend to approach, but not this is my resume. I'm looking for a job. I agree. I mean, it's no, it's I've got this interest. Can you guide me? Or you know, ask for guidance. And I think I'm always open for all generation and everybody to reply, even if it's short. You know, because we never know. You know, I've recruited thousands of people in my previous companies. I think the rule is there's no rule. You always make mistakes when you recruit. You get someone shy who's going to blossom, someone who's not shy who's going to be you know, a bad recruit. So it's all about leaving a chance to someone at some time. And in fact, I wish I would have had this chance a bit more. But now I'm in charge, so I can do that.
Perfect. Thank you, Ali. You want to add something?
Yeah, I would just recommend that you cast your net as wide as possible as well, because you know, regulators, for example, government institutions, and you know, the buyers of fintech products and solutions are also looking to enhance their capabilities and skill sets, you know, for the new digital age. So yeah, go as wide as possible.
Thank you so much. Quick question to you, Ali, and then I will finish with a question for the whole panelists. What's the situation regarding English, Ali? I mean, is the regulator open to speak English, I guess? Can we do the whole paperwork in English for fintechs who wish to move there?
Absolutely, Alex. Actually, the language in the DIFC is English. So all our laws, regulations are in English. Applications are made in English. So it is, you know, as hopefully as straightforward as possible for most applicants. Yeah. So English is perfectly acceptable, and in fact, the language of business outside of the DIFC is commonly English, as Eric mentioned. You know, if you have 150 plus nationalities, then people have to have a common form of communication, and English has been adopted.
So there is no complexity of translating or cost associated with translation.
And not in the DIFC. Everything is you know, accepted you know, with English being used.
Perfect. Thank you so much. My last question to the whole panelists, and Imam inspired me for that question, because ask you as a young graduate, how can I be hired by the fintech? But I'm going to ask Eric, Astyanax, and then Ali, if you can advise, but regarding Dubai region. So Eric, Astyanax, what would be your advice for an entrepreneur looking to launch a fintech today with the whole crisis and unknown situation we face? I'm starting with you, Eric.
Well, I think there's a lot of friends I have who went, you know, they had difficulties to find job, but it's pre-COVID. So I'm not, you know, I'm just telling you my experience, but I've got some young people I know, they went to Dubai, no job, a one-way ticket, and they found a job. So, you know, with, in fact, very large companies. So I think it's important to go there before you apply, because you need to know if there's a fit. But there are opportunities in Dubai, that's for sure.
But what would be your advice, Eric, to launch to any entrepreneurs looking to launch a fintech today in Dubai or elsewhere?
Well, I would say be patient and be curious. Yeah, that would be my advice. That
would be your first advice. Okay, be patient and be curious. I guess it's going to take a bit of time now to set up businesses. Astyanax, as an entrepreneur, what would be your advice for any?
Yes, so basically, first, the emotional aspect is that it's probably the most tough emotionally employment you can ever think of. You can be at the highest highs at 10 a.m. and 10:30 you may be thinking, okay, we're closing the company. That's it, guys. You know, pack up, we're going home. So you have to be used to that, and you have to be used to that and sustain it for years. You're going against the odds. If you look at the odds of entrepreneurs succeeding, you're going really against the odds. And that's also the beauty of it, that you are going against the odds. So emotionally, you have to be ready to do this. On a practical level, I would say the obvious, solve the problem, not a great idea that you have and your friends agree with, and test that idea that you have. And B, especially right now, try to raise money as early as possible and try to be very prudent with the money that you raise.
Well, I like to rebound on that. I think usually I tell candidate entrepreneurs, I mean, there's a lot of romanticism about that. They all see people on TV, they've got billions, blah, blah, blah. I think the reality, if you don't like bad news, don't do that, because it's all about bad news. And sometimes you get good news, but it's not really in the balance. So I think it's not for everyone. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who persist. There's a lot of great things that everyone can do, but there's a lot of it's a bumpy road, obviously. So yeah, be ready for bad news.
I agree with you guys. I think you have to be psychological unstable to be an entrepreneur, because it's a roller coaster. And I agree with Astyanax. I've lived it. You can have the best day and your worst day in your life the same day. So, and it's funny because, I mean, we see some entrepreneurs failing now due to COVID, and some are closing their fintechs. But the great thing is the next week they're going to contact you, and it's already the case, saying, Alex, I've closed my company last week, but I have a new idea. What do you think about that? I want to build a new company. And that's what I call you really entrepreneurs. I don't know what I said. I see you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And one thing that I very much appreciate, and I appreciate it much more, now being in the field, there is, I don't remember which US president is, like many years ago gave a speech, and there is a part of the speech talking about the men in the arena and how, you know, if you're the man in the arena, you're the most noble man you can be, because you're in there, you're in the game, you're covered in blood and sweat. So that's the beauty of it. Even if you close the business, if you believe you gave it your best, that's still such a great thing to do.
I agree with you. It's one of the most beautiful poems, is the man in the arena. Thank you so much. Ali, any advice to any entrepreneur looking to launch a business today in Dubai?
Hey, listen, I mean, you know, I think that even more so than ever before, you can base yourself anywhere, right? So I would personally say, look for the environment that offers you the biggest opportunity and offers you a way of minimizing your risk to lower your odds of failure. So, you know, and I think Dubai addresses those 2 points.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ali, for being with us today, presenting the Dubai ecosystem and the region. Thank you, Astyanax, Eric. I mean, your feedback beyond just how to set up the business over there as entrepreneurs has been very inspiring. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And I will just give the mic to Anthony to close the session and say to our listeners what's next on our agenda. Thank you so much.
Probably the most tough emotionally